1977 in the County of Sacramento, a violation of Penal Code Section 236. You admit or deny that?
I admit.
Regarding the uncharged offense of making a criminal threat to Jane Doe, number 31, and John Doe, number 14, having occurred on May 5th, 1977, in the County of Sacramento, a violation of Penal Code Section 422. Do you admit or deny that?
I admit.
Counsel?
Yes, in regards to incidents number 48 and 49, Jane Doe, number 32, lived with her husband, John Doe, 15, on Woodson Avenue in the city and county of Sacramento. They recently moved into their new home, which was the only residence occupied on the street since the others were still under construction. Just before 2 a.m. on October the 29th, 1977, the husband was awakened by someone tapping his foot with a hard object. Joseph DeAngelo stood at the foot of their bed. He threatened the husband. "Don't move or I'll blow your fucking brains out, fat boy," he told him. DeAngelo ordered the victim to tie the husband's wrists behind his back with shoelaces he threw to her. DeAngelo noticed that the victim only tied one wrist and yelled, "Bitch, I'll blow your brains out if you try something like that again." Using granny knots, DeAngelo tied up the victim and ransacked the house. He soon returned to Jane Doe, number 32, and forced her into the living room. And by doing so, he unlawfully kidnapped her and carried her away with the intent to commit robbery within the meaning of Penal Code Section 209. He did so, and in doing so, he substantially increased the risk of harm to her above and beyond the crime of robbery itself. After placing some dishes on the husband's back, DeAngelo stated, "If I hear the dishes rattle, I'll cut off her ear, bring it back to you." DeAngelo returned to the victim and straddled her back as he placed his penis in her bound hands, forcing her to masturbate him. DeAngelo forced the victim to orally copulate him and then vaginally raped her. Over the next several hours, Joseph DeAngelo continued to sexually assault the victim, alternating between vaginal rape and forced sodomy as the victim cried out in pain. During this time, the victim felt a gun belt and a holster on the defendant's waist. Each time, the defendant returned to the husband, who remained bound on his bed with dishes on his back. And each time, the defendant would shove the gun in the husband's cheek or push the knife against his throat. At one point in between repeatedly sexually assaulting the victim, DeAngelo told her, "I'm going to go watch TV. Keep your mouth shut." Before leaving, Joseph DeAngelo took the victim's wedding ring. The victims eventually freed themselves and were able to call the police.
Thank you, counsel. We should be heard as to incident number 48 and 49.
Marion.
Regarding the uncharged offense of kidnap to commit robbery of Jane Doe, number 32, having occurred October 29th, 1977 in the County of Sacramento, violation of Penal Code Section 209. Do you admit or deny?
I admit.
Regarding the uncharged offense of rape of Jane Doe, number 32, having occurred on October 29th, 1977 in the County of Sacramento, a violation of Penal Code Section 261. Do you admit or deny that?
I admit.
Regarding the uncharged offense of robbery of Jane Doe, number 32, and John Doe, number 15, having occurred on October 29th, 1977, in the County of Sacramento, violation of Penal Code Section 211, do you admit or deny?
I admit.
Regarding the uncharged offense of false imprisonment of Jane Doe, number 32, and John Doe, number 15, having occurred on October 29th, 1977, in the County of Sacramento, violation of Penal Code Section 236. Do you admit or deny that?
I admit.
Regarding the uncharged offense of making a criminal threat to Jane Doe, number 32, and John Doe, number 15, having occurred October 29th, 1977, in the County of Sacramento, a violation of Penal Code Section 422. Do you admit or deny that, sir?
I admit.
Thank you, counsel.
In regards to incident 50 and 51, Jane Doe, number 33, was just 13 years old and in the 7th grade. She lived with her mother, Jane Doe, number 34, in a 2-story condominium that backed up to the levee of the American River on La Riviera Drive in the city and county of Sacramento. If the curtains were open, you could see into the residence from the top of the levee. At approximately 2:30 a.m. on November the 10th, 1977, the mother was awakened by a noise of the sliding glass door and saw a bright light in her face. It was Joseph DeAngelo, who then tied the victim's mother with her hands behind her back. When the mother complained that the bindings were too tight, he said, "You want me to cut off your fingers? Who else is in the house?" The mother stated that her young daughter slept in another room. Before leaving the mother, DeAngelo placed 2 plates on her back. DeAngelo then walked into the 13-year-old's room and woke her up. DeAngelo put a knife to her ear and slid it down behind it and said, "You want me to cut off your ear?" The young girl said she didn't care. A clearly frustrated DeAngelo told her, "Do what I say or I'm going to stab you with a knife and slit your throat and watch you bleed to death." Before leaving the girl's bedroom, DeAngelo bound her hands with shoelaces tied in granny knots and gagged her. However, she was able to loosen her bindings. DeAngelo became angry when he returned and noticed that she had freed her hands from the bindings. Eventually, Joseph DeAngelo got onto the victim's bed, straddled her, placed his penis in her hands. He ordered the young girl to masturbate him, but she refused to do so. She could smell the strong odor of lotion on him. DeAngelo asked this 13-year-old victim, "Have you ever fucked before?" When she said that she did not know what that word meant, DeAngelo removed this child's underwear and told her to bend your legs more or I'll kill you. In the victim's own words, he was poking around with his penis and could not get his penis into her vagina, but then he forced it into her anus for a few moments. The defendant then retied her ankles before heading to the mother's room. He went to the mother's room and told her that he was going to go cook something, but he left the residence, taking cash and a gold necklace.
Counsel wish to be heard as to incidents 50 and 51.
Oh, yeah.
Regarding the uncharged offense of rape of Jane Doe, number 33, having occurred on November 10th, 1977 in the county of Sacramento, a violation Penal Code Section 261. Do you admit or deny that?
I admit.
Regarding the uncharged offense of robbery of Jane Doe 33 and Jane Doe 34, having occurred November 10th, 1977, in the county of Sacramento, violation Penal Code Section 211, do you admit or deny that?
I admit.
Regarding the uncharged offense of false imprisonment of Jane Doe number 33 and Jane Doe number 34, having occurred November 10th, 1977, in the county of Sacramento, violation of Penal Code Section 236, do you admit or deny that?
I admit.
Regarding the uncharged offense of making a criminal threat to Jane Doe number 33 and Jane Doe number 34, having occurred on November 10th, 1977, in the county of Sacramento, violation of Penal Code Section 422, do you admit or deny?
I admit.
Counsel?
In regards to incident number 52, Jane Doe number 34 lived in a single-story house with her husband and children on Revelstock Drive in the city and county of Sacramento. The victim went to bed around 11:30 p.m. on the evening of December the 2nd, 1977. The victim's young child slept in bed next to her because her husband was not home. Shortly after falling asleep, the victim was immediately awakened by someone poking her and shining a flashlight in her face. It was Joseph DeAngelo, standing there. The defendant told her, "Get up, come with me or I'll hurt your little boy." DeAngelo spoke in a harsh whisper through clenched teeth like he was angry. James Huddle, the defendant's former brother-in-law, told law enforcement that the defendant would speak in harsh whisper through clenched teeth when he became angry. The defendant forced his way into the victim's house through the family room window, with the intent to commit robbery and rape. DeAngelo ordered the victim to her feet as he held long shoestrings in his hand. He ordered her into the living room where he forced her face down. Using the same granny knots that were found at the Majori murder scene, he tied the victim's hands behind her back and her ankles. Joseph DeAngelo removed her underwear and possessed the intent to rape the victim, but he left when he heard a group of boys outside the residence talking loudly. DeAngelo frequently looked out the window to see what they were doing and seemed nervous. Before leaving, he stole the victim's ring.
Counsel, you wish to be heard as to incident number 52.
No, Your Honor.
Regarding the uncharged offense of burglary in the first degree of Jane Doe, number 35, having occurred December 2nd, 1977, in the County of Sacramento, a violation of Penal Code Section 459. You admit or deny that?
I admit.
Regarding the uncharged offense of attempted rape of Jane Doe, number 35, having occurred on December 2nd, 1977, in the County of Sacramento, violation of Penal Code Section 664/261. Do you admit or deny that?
I admit.
Counsel?
Your Honor, incident number 53 and 54, the last of the Sacramento uncharged crimes. Jane Doe, number 36, was 15 years old, and Jane Doe, number 37, was 14 years old. They were sisters and lived at home with their parents on College View Way in the city of Carmichael, County of Sacramento. On the evening of January the 28th, 1978, their parents left the residence to attend the Sacramento Symphony. Two girls were home alone and watched television until about 10 p.m. when they both went to bed in their separate bedrooms. Shortly after falling asleep, the older sister heard some thumping noises and got out of bed to check outside her window. While looking out the window, she heard someone whispering behind her, saying, "Give me all your money or I'll kill you." It was Joseph DeAngelo, and he was standing right behind her with a flashlight in one hand and a gun in the other. After taking her money, the defendant forced the older sister to walk to her younger sister's room. Once they were in the little sister's room, DeAngelo forced the girls to lay face down on the bed. After doing so, he covered the older sister's head with a pillow, tied both wrists behind her back, and told them, "I'm going to look around the house. If you move, I'll kill you, cut your throat, and slip away in the fog." Upon returning to the bedroom, Joseph DeAngelo removed their underwear and forced each of them to masturbate him with their hands tied behind their back. With both girls in the room together, Joseph DeAngelo took turns, vaginally raping both of them, telling them to relax and not to talk to him. He repeatedly raped them before leaving the house. The parents returned home later that night and found their daughters tied up. The bindings were so tight that the girl's father had to use a knife to cut them off. The defendant had used shoelaces to tie up both victims and took a picture of the younger sister with him.
Thank you. Counsel, you wish to be heard as to incidents 53 and 54.
No, Your Honor.
Regarding the uncharged offense of rape of Jane Doe, number 36, and Jane Doe, number 37, having occurred on January 28, 1978, in the County of Sacramento, violation of Penal Code Section 261. Do you admit or deny that?
I admit.
Regarding the uncharged offense of false imprisonment of Jane Doe, number 36, and Jane Doe, number 37, having occurred on January 28, 1978, in the County of Sacramento, a violation of Penal Code Section 236. Do you admit or deny?
I admit.
Regarding the uncharged offense of making a criminal threat, Jane Doe, number 36, and Jane Doe, number 37, having occurred on January 28, 1978, in the County of Sacramento, violation of Penal Code Section 422. Do you admit or deny?
I admit.
Court finds that Mr. DeAngelo has made a knowing, voluntary, and intelligent waiver to his rights to a jury trial, confrontation, and self-incrimination. Court further finds the plea and the admissions were made voluntarily and with the understanding of the nature of these charges and uncharged crimes, as well as the consequences of this plea. Court finds there is a factual basis for the plea and the admissions. The people accept the plea and the conditions stated on the record.
Yes, Your Honor.
Court accepts the plea and the conditions stated in the record, and I find there's a factual basis. Based on the guilty pleas, court finds count 2, finds Mr. DeAngelo guilty of murder in the first degree, violation of Penal Code Section 187, paren A, Katie Majori. Court also finds that Mr. DeAngelo personally used a firearm in the course of that murder in violation of Penal Code Section 12022.5 based on his admission. As to count 3, court finds Mr. DeAngelo guilty, violation of Penal Code Section 187, murder in the first degree of Brian Majori. Court further finds that Mr. DeAngelo did use a firearm in the course of that murder in violation of Penal Code Section 12022.5 based on his admission. Count 14. Court finds Mr. DeAngelo guilty kidnapping for the purpose of robbery, violation of Penal Code Section 209. Court further finds use of a knife to be true based on his admission within the meaning of Penal Code Section 12022. As to count 15, court finds Mr. DeAngelo guilty violation Penal Code Section 209, kidnapping for the purposes of robbery. Court further finds that Mr. DeAngelo did personally use a firearm within the meaning of Penal Code Section 12022.5 based on his admission. Count 16, court finds Mr. DeAngelo guilty violation of Penal Code Section 209, kidnapping with intent to commit robbery. Court further finds that Mr. DeAngelo did use a firearm, personally use a firearm within the meaning of Penal Code Section 12022.5 based on his admission. Court further finds that Mr. DeAngelo did personally use a knife within the meaning of Penal Code Section 12022 to be true based on his admission. Count 17. Court finds Mr. DeAngelo guilty violation Penal Code Section 209, kidnapping with intent to commit robbery. Court further finds personal use of a firearm within the meaning of 12022.5 to be true based on his admission. Count 18. Court finds Mr. DeAngelo guilty violation Penal Code Section 209, kidnapping to commit robbery. Court further finds that Mr. DeAngelo did personally use a firearm within the meaning of 12022.5 of the Penal Code based on his admission. Court further finds that he did personally use a knife in violation of Penal Code Section 12022 to be true based on his admission. Count 19. Court finds Mr. DeAngelo guilty violation Penal Code Section 209, kidnapping with intent to commit robbery. Court further finds that Mr. DeAngelo personally used a firearm in the course of that offense within the meaning of 12022.5 and find that to be true based on his admission. Court further finds that he personally used a knife within the meaning of 12022 based on his admission. Count 20. Court finds Mr. DeAngelo guilty violation Penal Code Section 209, kidnapping with intent to commit robbery. Court further finds that Mr. DeAngelo personally used a firearm within the meaning of Penal Code Section 12022.5, find that to be true based on his admission. Court further finds he personally used a knife within the meaning of Penal Code Section 12022 to be true based on his admission. Count 21. Court finds Mr. DeAngelo guilty violation Penal Code Section 209, kidnapping with intent to commit robbery. Court further finds that he personally used a firearm within the meaning of 12022.5, and I find that to be true based on his admission. Court further finds that he personally used a knife within the meaning of 12022 based on his admission. Count 22. Court finds Mr. DeAngelo guilty violation Penal Code Section 209, kidnapping with intent to commit robbery. Court further finds that Mr. DeAngelo personally used a firearm within the meaning of 12022.5 based on his admissions. Court further finds that he personally used a knife within the meaning of Penal Code Section 12022 based on his admissions. Count 23. Court finds Mr. DeAngelo guilty violation Penal Code Section 209, kidnapping with intent to commit robbery. Court further finds that Mr. DeAngelo personally used a firearm within the meaning of 12022.5, and I find that to be true based on his admission. Court further finds that Mr. DeAngelo personally used a knife within the meaning of Penal Code Section 12022, and I find that to be true based on his admission. Court finds there are special circumstance allegations in counts 2 through 13 that he did commit multiple murders within the meaning of Penal Code Section 190.2, paren A, paren 3, and Penal Code Section 190, C5, and I find that to be true based on his admission. The people waive this matter to probation department for a formal report pursuant to Penal Code Section 1203, paren B, paren 4, and in place request a 1203C report.
Yes, Your Honor.
Defense as well?
Yes, Your Honor.
Anything else from either counsel on this matter?
No, Your Honor.
Very good, thank you. Is San Joaquin up next?
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Amy Holliday, Assistant Chief Deputy from Sacramento County. On behalf of the people, these will be the charges, uncharged cases from San Joaquin County.
Thank you.
In regards to incident 55 and 56, on the evening of September 6, 1977, Jane Doe number 38 and her husband, John Doe number 16, were asleep in the master bedroom of their home on Portage Circle in the city of Stockton, county of San Joaquin. Jane Doe 38 was awakened when Joseph DeAngelo opened the unlocked sliding glass door to their bedroom and blinded her with a beam from his flashlight. DeAngelo was wearing a mask and told her not to move. All he wanted was food and money. DeAngelo asked who else was in the home and was told that there were 2 children. DeAngelo told the victims, "If you don't behave, I'll cut off your kids' ears and bring them back to you." DeAngelo then handed Jane Doe 38 shoelaces and told her to tie her husband's hands and feet. He then bound her hands and feet and tightened the bindings on her husband. DeAngelo placed 2 plates on John Doe number 16's back and told him that if he heard the dishes rattle, he would kill all of them. He also held a gun to John Doe's head several times. DeAngelo closed all the curtains in the home before untying Jane Doe 38's feet and told her to get out of bed. He held a knife to her chin and forced her into the living room, face down onto the floor. He blindfolded her, untied her feet, and removed her robe. He rolled her onto her back and said, "Fuck me like your old man." DeAngelo was masturbating before raping her the first time. After rummaging through the house, DeAngelo returned and proceeded to rape her several more times in a variety of positions. He attempted to sodomize her on one occasion, but then stopped trying and returned to raping her again. After he was finished, DeAngelo placed her face down on the floor and covered her up. After a few minutes, she was able to get her feet untied, went into the master bedroom where her husband was still tied up. They used a knife to cut the shoelaces and called the police. Jane Doe 38 reported that the suspect spoke in a low, hoarse voice most of the time, but when he got excited, his voice changed to a very high pitch. Officers observed that a blanket had been draped over the lamp in the room where Jane Doe number 38 had been assaulted. During this incident, DeAngelo took silver dollars, money, jewelry, including their wedding bands and custom cufflinks.
Thank you. Council wish to be heard as to incidents 55 and 56.
No, Your Honor.
Regarding uncharged offense of kidnapping to commit robbery of Jane Doe number 38, having occurred on September 6, 1977 in the county of San Joaquin, in violation of Penal Code Section 209. You admit or deny that?
I admit.
Regarding the uncharged offense of rape of Jane Doe number 38, having occurred on September 6, 1977 in the county of San Joaquin, a violation of Penal Code Section 261. You admit or deny?
I admit.
Regarding the uncharged offense of robbery of Jane Doe number 38 and John Doe number 16, having occurred on September 6, 1977 in the county of San Joaquin, a violation of Penal Code Section 211. Do you admit or deny that?
I admit.
Regarding the uncharged offense of false imprisonment of Jane Doe number 38 and John Doe number 16, having occurred on September 6, 1977 in the county of San Joaquin, a violation of Penal Code Section 236. Do you admit or deny?
I admit.
Regarding the uncharged offense of making criminal threats to Jane Doe number 38 and John Doe number 16, having occurred on September 6, 1977 in the county of San Joaquin, a violation of Penal Code Section 422. Do you admit or deny?
I admit.
Thank you, counsel.
In regard to incident 57 and 58, in the early morning of March 13, 1978, Jane Doe 39 and John Doe number 17 were asleep in Miss Doe's home on Meadow Avenue in the city of Stockton, county of San Joaquin. They were awakened when a masked male standing in their bedroom holding a gun in his right hand and a flashlight in his left. The man said, "All I want is your money and food so I can live a little longer." While holding the flashlight beam in their eyes, he waved the gun slightly and said, "This is a .357 Magnum, you see, and I'll blow your heads off." The masked man was Joseph DeAngelo. He ordered both of them to roll onto their stomachs and then had Jane Doe 39 bind her boyfriend's hands with shoelaces that DeAngelo provided. DeAngelo then tied her hands behind her back, tightening the bindings on John Doe 17 and bound the feet of both victims. DeAngelo then went through the dresser and jewelry box in the bedroom. He then went into another room and could be heard tearing up towels. DeAngelo returned to the bedroom and used the towels to blindfold John Doe number 17. He then placed the barrel of his gun between Jane Doe 39's shoulder blades and ordered her to get out of bed, not look at him. He forced her to walk into the living room with the gun still at her back, and then forced her to lay face down on the living room floor. She was then blindfolded and her feet bound again. DeAngelo placed a plate and a bowl on John Doe number 17's back and ordered him not to move, or he would kill both of them. DeAngelo came back to the living room and turned on the television set. He straddled Jane Doe 39's back and forced his penis into her hands while ordering her to make it feel good. He also rubbed his penis on her back before untying her feet. He rolled her over, sat on her chest, and forced her to orally copulate him. DeAngelo then vaginally raped her. He then placed suntan lotion on her vagina and anus and sodomized her as she cried. When DeAngelo was finished, he got up and could be heard rummaging through the kitchen. DeAngelo returned to her, placed a plate and a bowl on her back, and said, "One clink, one small noise, and he's dead." Eventually, Jane Doe was able to slide down the hall, knock the phone off the shelf, and call the operator for help. DeAngelo took jewelry, a driver's license, and money. Empty beer cans were found outside on the patio that had not been there before he was in the home.
Thank you, counsel. You wish to be heard as to incident 57 and 58.
No, Your Honor.
Regarding the uncharged offense of kidnapping to commit robbery of Jane Doe number 39, which occurred on March 18th, 1978, in the county of San Joaquin, violation of Penal Code Section 209. Do you admit or deny that?
I admit.
Regarding the uncharged offense of rape of Jane Doe number 39, having occurred on March 18th, 1978, in the county of San Joaquin, a violation of Penal Code Section 261. Do you admit or deny that?
I admit.
Regarding the uncharged offense of robbery of Jane Doe number 39 and John Doe number 17, having occurred March 18th, 1978, in the county of San Joaquin, a violation of Penal Code Section 211. Do you admit or deny?
I admit.
Regarding the uncharged offense of false imprisonment of Jane Doe number 39 and John Doe number 17, having occurred March 18th, 1978, in the county of San Joaquin, violation of Penal Code Section 236. Do you admit or deny?
I admit.
Regarding the uncharged offense of making a criminal threat of Jane Doe number 39 and John Doe number 17, having occurred on March 18th, 1978, in the county of San Joaquin, a violation of Penal Code Section 422. Do you admit or deny that, sir?
I admit.
Court finds the admissions were made voluntarily with an understanding the nature of the uncharged crimes as well as the consequences of the admissions. Do the people accept the admissions as stated on the record?
Yes, Your Honor.
Court accepts the admissions and conditions as stated on the record. Anything else on these offenses?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Takes us to Stanislaus County.
Yes, Your Honor. In regard to the uncharged offenses from Stanislaus County, incidents 59 and 60. In the early morning hours of June 4th, 1978, Jane Doe number 40 and her husband, John Doe number 18, were asleep in their master bedroom of their home on Fuchsia Lane in the city of Modesto in the county of Stanislaus. Their 4-year-old daughter was asleep in the home at the same time. At approximately 2:30 a.m., they were awakened by a knocking noise and a beam of light from a flashlight carried by a masked Joseph DeAngelo. He was carrying a gun in his right hand. DeAngelo stated that he had a .357 and would blow their brains out. Jane Doe number 40 was told to tie her husband's hands and feet together. DeAngelo tossed shoestrings to her to use for bindings. DeAngelo then tied her hands and feet together, also with shoestrings. DeAngelo spoke in a low whisper and continued to threaten them and put a gun and a knife to their heads. He stated that all he wanted was food and money to put in his van. He could be heard rummaging through their kitchen and opening the refrigerator. He then came back into the master bedroom and forced Jane Doe number 40 to move to the floor next to the bed. He then placed dishes on the back of John Doe number 18, instructing him not to move or he would kill him. DeAngelo forced Jane Doe number 40 to get up, move down the hall, and lie face down on the living room floor. A towel had been stuffed under the lampshade in the living room. DeAngelo proceeded to straddle her back and forced her to fondle his penis. He then raped her and forced her to change positions several times. When he was done, he placed a glass and a dish on her back and told her he better not hear any noise. DeAngelo eventually left, and John Doe number 18 was able to call 911 using his tongue to dial the number. DeAngelo took approximately $1,500 in cash from the residents.
Thank you, counsel. You wish to be heard as to incidents 59 and 60.
No, Your Honor.
Regarding the uncharged offense of kidnapping to commit robbery of Jane Doe number 40, having occurred on June 4th, 1978 in the county of Stanislaus, violation of Penal Code Section 209, do you admit or deny that?
I admit.
Regarding the uncharged offense of rape of Jane Doe number 40, having occurred on June 4th, 1978 in the county of Stanislaus, a violation of Penal Code Section 261, do you admit or deny that?
I admit.
Regarding the uncharged offense of robbery of Jane Doe 40 and John Doe 18, having occurred on June 4th, 1978 in the county of Stanislaus, a violation of Penal Code Section 211, do you admit or deny that?
I admit.
Regarding the uncharged offense of false imprisonment of Jane Doe number 40 and John Doe number 18, having occurred on June 4th, 1978 in the county of Stanislaus, a violation of Penal Code Section 236, do you admit or deny that?
I admit.
Regarding the offense, the uncharged offense of making a criminal threat to Jane Doe 40 and John Doe 18, having occurred on June 4th, 1978 in the county of Stanislaus, a violation of Penal Code Section 422, do you admit or deny that, sir?
I admit.
Counsel?
In regards to incidents 62 and 63, on June 23rd, 1978, Jane Doe number 42 and her husband, John Doe number 19, were asleep in their home on Grand Prix Drive in the city of Modesto in the county of Stanislaus. Early in the morning, Jane Doe number 42 heard her puppy growling, and then she saw the silhouette of someone standing in the bedroom. The person turned on a flashlight and shined it in her eyes. The masked person holding the flashlight was Joseph DeAngelo. The first words DeAngelo uttered were, "I have a gun. Don't make any sounds or I'll blow your fucking heads off." DeAngelo told both of them to roll over and toss some shoelaces to Jane Doe and told her to tie her husband's hands together. He said he only wanted food and money, and if they kept their mouths shut, he would leave. DeAngelo bound Jane Doe number 42's hands and feet. He then forced her to walk down the hall into the living room. He instructed her not to look at him, but she was able to see a large knife he carried in his hand. He forced her to lay on her stomach, proceeded to go through the kitchen and open the refrigerator. DeAngelo went back to the bedroom and asked John Doe number 19 where the money was located. He told him it would be in a purse on the kitchen table. DeAngelo then placed 3 items on the bed next to him and said, "I'll kill your fucking wife if I hear this, and it will be all your fault." DeAngelo returned to the living room and turned on the television. He placed 2 towels over Jane Doe's head, preventing her from seeing. She heard him go into the garage, and he returned, straddling her back. He poked her with the tip of a knife on the side of her face, and then placed his penis in her hands and told her to play with it. DeAngelo untied her feet, rolled her over, and sexually assaulted her several times in different positions. When he was finished, DeAngelo bound her feet and left her in the living room. He could be heard rummaging around the house, and after a period of time, it was silent. John Doe number 19 was able to eventually hop down the hall, obtain a knife, and cut their bindings loose. Shoelaces were located in the home that did not belong to the victims. The phone lines had been cut, and DeAngelo took money, a revolver, and both of their wedding rings.
Thank you, counsel. You wish to be heard as to incident 62 and 63.
No, Your Honor.
Regarding the uncharged offense of kidnap to commit robbery of Jane Doe, number 42, having occurred June 23rd in the county of Stanislaus, a violation of Penal Code Section 209. Do you admit or deny that?
I admit.
Regarding the uncharged offense of rape of Jane Doe, number 42, having occurred on June 23rd, 1978 in the county of Stanislaus, a violation of Penal Code Section 261. Do you admit or deny that?
I admit.
Regarding the uncharged offense of robbery of Jane Doe 42 and John Doe number 19 having occurred June 23rd, 1978 in the county of Stanislaus, a violation of Penal Code Section 211, do you admit or deny that?
I admit.
Regarding the uncharged offense of false imprisonment of Jane Doe number 42 and John Doe number 19 having occurred on June 23rd, 1978 in the county of Stanislaus, a violation of Penal Code Section 236, do you admit or deny?
I admit.
Regarding the uncharged offense of making a criminal threat, Jane Doe number 42 and John Doe number 19 having occurred on June 23rd, 1978 in the county of Stanislaus, a violation of Penal Code Section 422, do you admit or deny that?
I admit.
Court finds that the admissions were made voluntarily with an understanding of the nature of the uncharged crimes as well as the consequences of these admissions. Do the people accept the admissions as stated on the record?
Yes, Your Honor.
Court accepts the admissions as stated on the record. Anything else on this matter?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you. I think that brings us to Yolo County.
It does.
Go ahead.
In regards to Incident 61, on June 7th, 1978, Jane Doe number 41, a UC Davis student, was asleep alone in her first floor apartment located on Wake Forest Drive in the city of Davis in the county of Yolo. She was awakened by a male near her bed who put his hand on her face and was poking her in the back with something sharp. He told her not to scream and said, "All I want is food and money." The man who said he was only there for food or money was Joseph DeAngelo. Jane Doe number 41, who was sleeping on her stomach, put her hands behind her back as instructed. He tied her hands together with twine and then tied her legs. He covered her with a sheet before going through her dresser and opening the drawers. DeAngelo stuffed a pair of panties into her mouth and held a sharp object near her left eye, repeatedly threatening her to shut up. Ultimately, he poked her in the left eye with a nail file, causing an injury to her eye. DeAngelo then went into her walk-in closet and the bathroom, briefly turning on the lights in each area. He returned to Jane Doe, put towels around her head, including her mouth and eyes. She was able to get the towels to slip down and was able to get a look at the suspect. She was able to see his pants, his shirt, and the fact that his head was completely covered with some type of stocking cap. When DeAngelo saw her looking at him, he hit her several times in the head and pressed the nail file into her neck. He took the covers off of her and saw that she had untied the bindings on her feet. That angered him further, so he struck her several more times in the head and removed her underwear. Jane Doe number 41 was sobbing, attempting to scream, which only served to anger DeAngelo further. DeAngelo then straddled her back, put his penis into her hands, and told her to grab his dick. He took some lotion from a bottle near the bed and put it on his penis. DeAngelo then raped her. When he was finished, he covered her with a sheet and placed a towel over her head. She remained on the bed until it was quiet for a few minutes before going outside and screaming until her upstairs neighbors heard her and came to assist. When they saw the state she was in, they called the police. DeAngelo took the victim's wallet. Twine and strips of material that were used to bind the victim did not come from her apartment.
Thank you. Defense wish to be heard as to incident number 61.
No, Your Honor.
Regarding the uncharged offense of rape of Jane Doe number 41 having occurred on June 7th, 1978 in the county of Yolo, a violation of Penal Code Section 261, do you admit or deny that?
I admit.
Regarding the uncharged offense of false imprisonment of Jane Doe, number 41, having occurred on June 7th, 1978, in the county of Yolo, a violation of Penal Code Section 236. Do you admit or deny that?
I admit.
Regarding the uncharged offense of making a criminal threat, Jane Doe, number 41, having occurred on June 7th, 1978, in the county of Yolo, violation of Penal Code Section 422. Do you admit or deny that?
I admit.
Counsel?
Tin Ho on behalf of the people, Your Honor.
Thank you.
In regards to incidents 64 and 65, Jane Doe, number 43, lived with her husband, John Doe, number 20, and their two children on Rivendell Drive in the city of Davis, county of Yolo. Just after midnight on June the 24th, 1978, the couple went to bed. At approximately 3 a.m., they were awakened by a bright flashlight shining in their faces. It was Joseph DeAngelo standing in their doorway. They could only see his dark silhouette. He told them, "I have a .357 Magnum, and I'll kill everyone if you don't cooperate." After ordering them to roll over onto their stomachs, DeAngelo threw 2 pairs of shoelaces onto the bed, made the wife tie up the husband, and after tying up the wife, DeAngelo shoved a gun up against her back and told her not to move. As DeAngelo began ransacking the house, he encountered the couple's young son and locked him in the bathroom. He placed a cup on the doorknob to alert him if the door opened. After returning to the victim, DeAngelo pushed something sharp into her upper back and said, "That kid better stay in the bathroom, or I'm going to push this ice pick into your back." He continued to threaten to blow everyone's head off if they did not cooperate. He ordered the victim off the bed and into the living room, where he placed her on the floor face down. In doing so, he kidnapped her with the intent to commit robbery, and he substantially increased the harm to her. While lying on the living room floor, the victim heard the lotion bottle open. The defendant made her masturbate him with her hands behind her back. He vaginally raped her and forced her to orally copulate. After terrorizing the victims, he stole their money and he left.
Counsel wish to be heard as to incidents 64 and 65.
No, Your Honor.
Regarding the uncharged offense of kidnapping to commit robbery of Jane Doe, number 43, having occurred on June 24th, 1978, in the county of Yolo, a violation of Penal Code Section 209, you admit or deny?
I admit.
Regarding the uncharged offense of rape of Jane Doe, number 43, having occurred on June 24th, 1978, in the county of Yolo, a violation of Penal Code Section 261, you admit or deny?
I admit.
Regarding the uncharged offense of robbery of Jane Doe 43 and John Doe number 20, having occurred on June 24th, 1978, in the county of Yolo, a violation of Penal Code Section 211, do you admit or deny?
I admit.
Regarding the uncharged offense of false imprisonment of Jane Doe number 43 and John Doe number 20, having occurred June 24th, 1978, in the county of Yolo, a violation of Penal Code Section 236, do you admit or deny?
I admit.
Regarding the uncharged offense of making a criminal threat, Jane Doe number 43 and John Doe number 20, having occurred June 24th, 1978, in the county of Yolo, a violation of Penal Code Section 422, do you admit or deny?
I admit.
Counsel?
Your Honor, this is the last Yolo County incident, which is incident number 67. Jane Doe, number 45, lived on Havenwood Way. Excuse me. Incident 66. Jane Doe, number 44, lived with her two young children on Amador Drive in the city of Davis, county of Yolo. Around 3 a.m. on July the 6th, 1978, Joseph DeAngelo came through her bedroom door and shined a flashlight in her face. He told her, "Don't move, or I'll blow your fucking head off and I'll kill your boys. You see this," as he pointed to the handgun. DeAngelo ordered the victim to roll onto her stomach, after which he bound her wrists with shoelaces. After he wiped lotion on his penis, he forced the victim to masturbate him with her hands bound behind his back, and then he vaginally raped her. After sexually assaulting the victim, he ransacked the house, ate their food, and stole their money. But he wasn't done. Joseph DeAngelo returned to the victim and forced her to orally copulate him before sodomizing her. He forced her into multiple positions as he sexually assaulted her. At one point during the night, Joseph DeAngelo started saying, I hate you, Bonnie. Joseph DeAngelo was previously engaged to a woman named Bonnie. When she broke off the engagement with him because of his controlling nature, he showed up at her window and tried to kidnap her at gunpoint.
Thank you. Counsel wish to be heard as to incident number 66.
No, Your Honor.
Regarding the uncharged offense of rape, Jane Doe number 44, having occurred July 6, 1978, in the county of Yolo, violation of Penal Code Section 261. Do you admit or deny that?
I admit.
Regarding the uncharged offense of false imprisonment of Jane Doe number 44, having occurred on July 6, 1978, in the county of Yolo, a violation of Penal Code Section 236. Do you admit or deny that?
I admit.
Regarding the uncharged offense of making a criminal threat to Jane Doe number 44, having occurred July 6, 1978, in the county of Yolo, violation of Penal Code Section 422. Do you admit or deny?
I admit.
Court finds the admissions were voluntary with an understanding of the nature of the uncharged crime as well as the consequences of these admissions. People accept the admissions as stated on the record.
Yes.
Court accepts the admissions and conditions as stated on the record. Anything else from either counsel before we continue on to Santa Clara?
No, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
There are two Santa Clara incidents. The first is number 67. Jane Doe number 45 lived on Havenwood Way in the city of San Jose, county of Santa Clara, with her one-year-old baby. On the night of the incident, she was home alone with her baby around 3:45 a.m. on November the 4th, 1978. She felt pressure on top of her and opened her eyes to see a stranger pressing against her body in the dark. It was Joseph DeAngelo. He told her, don't make any sound. If you do, I'm going to kill you. I have a knife. He felt a sharp object against her face. After he forced the victim face down, he tied her hands behind her back. He could hear something being ripped and was subsequently gagged and blindfolded. The victim felt DeAngelo's gloves as he touched her body. He vaginally raped her twice. After the assaults, DeAngelo told her he was hungry and he went to the kitchen where he could be heard eating food. He used drapery cord to bound the victim, just like he used the drapery cord in Ventura County.
Thank you, counsel. You wish to be heard as to incident number 67.
No, Your Honor.
Regarding the uncharged offense of rape of Jane Doe number 45, having occurred on November 3rd, 1978, in the county of Santa Clara, a violation of Penal Code Section 261. Do you admit or deny that?
I admit.
Regarding the uncharged offense of false imprisonment of Jane Doe number 45, having occurred on November 3rd, in the county of Santa Clara, a violation of Penal Code Section 236. Do you admit or deny that?
I admit.
Regarding the uncharged offense of making a criminal threat to Jane Doe number 45, having occurred November 3rd, 1978, in the county of Santa Clara, violation of Penal Code Section 422. Do you admit or deny that?
I admit.
Counsel?
Yes, Your Honor. In regards to the last Santa Clara incident, number 68 and 69, Jane Doe number 46 lived with her husband John Doe 21 on Kesey Lane in the city of San Jose, county of Santa Clara. On February the 2nd, 1978, Joseph DeAngelo broke into their home and stood in their bedroom watching them sleep. Around 2 a.m., he woke up the wife by shining a flashlight in her face. She screamed several times until her husband woke up. When the husband threw the covers off, DeAngelo yelled out, "Just try to move, motherfucker. Try to do it again and I'll shoot you." DeAngelo threw the victim a handful of shoelaces and ordered her to tie up her husband, which she did. The defendant then tied up the victim's hands behind her back. Some of the bindings, the shoelaces, came from the victim's shoes. Others, DeAngelo brought with him. After ransacking the house, DeAngelo came back into the bedroom and led Jane Doe number 46 to the front bedroom. In doing so, he unlawfully kidnapped her with the intent to commit robbery and substantially increase the risk of harm to her. DeAngelo re-entered the bedroom and placed a jar on the husband's back and told him if he heard a noise, he would shoot his wife. Upon returning to the wife, DeAngelo forced her to masturbate him with her hands still bound behind her back. DeAngelo then forced her to orally copulate him. He placed a knife to her throat and told her she better make it feel nice or he would cut her throat. After a few moments, the defendant vaginally raped the victim as he held a gun up against her head and told her not to scream or he would blow out her brains. After sexually assaulting the victim, he started eating a box of crackers and drinking beer from the refrigerator. The victim thought the defendant had left the house, but then he called out and came back. Like several of the sexual assaults in Contra Costa and in the East Area Rapist series, the defendant used shoelaces as bindings, stole wedding bands from the victims, ate their food, and drank their beer after he terrorized them.
Thank you. Defense counsel, you wish to be heard as to incidents 68 and 69.
No, Your Honor.
Mr. DeAngelo, regarding the uncharged offense of kidnap with intent to commit robbery of Jane Doe, number 46, having occurred on December 2nd, 1978, in the county of Santa Clara, a violation of Penal Code Section 209. Do you admit or deny that?
I admit.
Regarding the uncharged offense of rape of Jane Doe, number 46, having occurred on December 2nd, 1978, in the county of Santa Clara, violation of Penal Code Section 261. Do you admit or deny that?
I admit.
Regarding the uncharged offense of robbery of Jane Doe, number 46, and John Doe, number 21, having occurred on December 2nd, 1978, in the county of Santa Clara, violation of Penal Code Section 211. Do you admit or deny that?
I admit.
Regarding the uncharged offense of false imprisonment of Jane Doe, number 46, and John Doe, number 21, having occurred on December 2nd, 1978, in the county of Santa Clara, violation of Penal Code Section 236. Do you admit or deny that, sir?
I admit.
Regarding the uncharged offense of making a criminal threat to Jane Doe, number 46, and John Doe, number 21, having occurred December 2nd, 1978, in the county of Santa Clara, a violation of Penal Code Section 422. Do you admit or deny that?
I admit.
Court finds that the admissions were voluntary with an understanding of the nature of the uncharged crime as well as the consequences of the admission. Do the people accept the admissions as stated on the record?
Yes, Your Honor.
Court accepts the admissions and conditions as stated on the record. Anything else from either counsel on the Santa Clara incidents?
No, Your Honor.
No,
Let's proceed to Alameda County.
One more, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Your Honor, in regards to the uncharged offenses from Alameda County, incidents 73 and 74. On April 4th, 1979, Jane Doe number 50 and her boyfriend, Jane Doe number 22, were asleep in their home on Honda Way in the city of Fremont in the county of Alameda. Just after midnight, they were awakened and saw a male pointing a flashlight and a handgun at them in their bedroom. He told them not to move or he would blow their heads off. The man in their bedroom holding the gun was Joseph DeAngelo. The suspect threw shoelaces at John Doe's back and told Jane Doe number 50 to tie his hands behind his back. DeAngelo then tied her hands and feet as well as John Doe number 22's feet. He told them that we're going into the other room so you guys won't be together. DeAngelo forced Jane Doe number 50 to walk into the front room and lay down on the floor. He covered her with a blanket and blindfolded her. He then returned to John Doe number 22 and placed dishes on his back while instructing him not to move, that he would blow their heads off. DeAngelo then went back to Jane Doe number 50 and told her that if she did what he wanted, he would take food and money. No one would get hurt. He also mentioned that he needed supplies for his van. Next, he turned on the television with no sound, removed the blanket and straddled her back and forced her to masturbate him. DeAngelo removed the bindings from her feet, rolled her over, and raped her vaginally several times. After he finished, he put a towel in her mouth. DeAngelo could be heard rummaging through the home before leaving. Jane Doe number 50 was able to untie her bindings and untie her boyfriend's bindings and call for help. DeAngelo took John Doe's office and house keys along with money.
Thank you, counsel. You wish to be heard as to incidents 73 and 74.
No, Your Honor.
Regarding the uncharged offense of kidnapping to commit robbery of Jane Doe number 50, having occurred April 4th, 1979 in the county of Alameda, a violation of Penal Code Section 209, do you admit or deny that?
I admit.
Regarding the uncharged offense of rape of Jane Doe number 50, having occurred on April 4th, 1979 in the county of Alameda, a violation of Penal Code Section 261, do you admit or deny that?
I admit.
Regarding the uncharged offense of robbery of Jane Doe 50 and John Doe 22, having occurred April 4th, 1979, in the county of Alameda, violation of Penal Code Section 211, do you admit or deny that?
I admit.
Regarding the uncharged offense of false imprisonment of Jane Doe number 50 and John Doe number 22, having occurred April 4th, 1979, in the county of Alameda, a violation of Penal Code Section 236, do you admit or deny?
I admit.
Regarding the uncharged offense of making a criminal threat to Jane Doe 50 and John Doe 22, having occurred April 4th, 1979, in the county of Alameda, a violation of Penal Code Section 422, do you admit or deny that?
I admit.
Court finds the admissions were voluntary and with the understanding of the nature of the uncharged crimes as well as the consequences of the admissions. The people accept the admissions as stated on the record.
Yes, Your Honor.
Court accepts the admissions as stated on the record. Is there anything else in terms of Alameda charges?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, counsel. The court does find all the pleas and all the admissions were voluntary, knowing, and intelligently made, and the court does accept all the pleas and admissions. This matter is set for judgment and sentencing starting the week, I believe, of August 17th of 2020. Will be set in Department 24. Mr. DeAngelo, you do have the right to be sentenced within 20 court days of today's date. Do you waive that right so we're able to continue your matter to start sentencing August 17th? Thank you, sir. Is there anything else from any, or excuse me, counsel join?
Yes, Your Honor.
Anything else from any counsel before we adjourn?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Mr. DeAngelo is remanded to the sheriff, custody of the sheriff without bail. Department 24 is adjourned. Thank you.
You need some water.
Thank you, everybody. Court is concluded for the day. Court has been concluded for the day. A couple things. Press conference will be starting shortly. But before that, need the audience in this section